Have you ever heard of Samuel Beckett's masterpiece, Waiting for Godot? It's one of those plays that's famous for being, well, famously confusing. So today, we're going to try something a little different. We are going to solve the riddle of what this play actually means, and we're going to do it using a very, very unexpected key. I mean, this quote from one of the main characters, Estragon, really says it all. It perfectly captures what it feels like to watch this play. You're just dropped into this stark, empty world where two men are trapped in what feels like a pointless, endless loop. It's bleak, it's frustrating, and for a lot of people, it's just baffling. And that's the central mystery, isn't it? If pretty much nothing happens, why does this play hit so hard? Why has it been studied and performed and argued about for decades? That's the question we're here to unlock today. So the setup is actually super simple. You've got two guys, Vladimir and Estragon. They're on a desolate road with just a single lonely tree. And they wait. That's it. They just wait. For this person named Godot, who they're convinced is going to show up and save them, but he never does. Okay, so to crack this puzzle, we're not going to dig through more theater criticism. No, we're going to go somewhere completely different. We're going to use an ancient key to unlock this very modern problem. And that key is the Bhagavad Gita. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. On the surface, these two things could not be more different, right? On one hand, you have this landscape of total minimalism and inaction. And on the other, you've got this vibrant cosmic battlefield, just moments before a huge world-changing war. So how in the world can one possibly explain the other? Well, here's how. The Bhagavad Gita is, at its heart, a guide for what to do when you're facing a massive existential crisis. The hero, Arjuna, is completely paralyzed by despair right before a huge battle. And the god Krishna steps in to teach him how to find meaning, not by waiting for it, but through purposeful action and by understanding the true nature of reality. It's basically a direct answer to the paralysis we see in Beckett's play. All right, let's start with the most obvious thing in Waiting for Godot, hope. Or maybe more accurately, the illusion of hope. And this right here is a game changer for understanding the play. Godot isn't some guy who's just running late. Godot is the idea of waiting itself. He represents that deep, human need we all have to believe that something else, some person or some event or some miracle, is going to come along and finally give our lives meaning from the outside. Now, the Gita has a word for this, Asha, which means hope or desire. And the text sees Asha as a kind of double-edged sword. Sure, it can inspire you to get up and do things, but if you just become attached to that hope and you just passively wait for it to come true, well, that's when it becomes a trap, a source of endless suffering. So here's the bottom line. In Waiting for Godot, hope is what paralyzes them. It's the very thing that keeps Vladimir and Estragon stuck by that tree. But in the Gita, true hope is what fuels you to act, to do what you need to do without getting obsessed with the outcome. One is a cage and the other is a key. And that brings us right to the heart of this whole thing, the massive, profound difference between doing something and just waiting around. See, the Gita's answer to this kind of paralysis is a whole philosophy called karma yoga, the path of selfless action. The main idea is actually pretty simple. You have a right to your actions, but you don't have a right to the results of those actions. You find freedom by doing what you must do with your full heart and soul, and then you let go of the outcome. And then you look back at our two guys by the tree. They are the absolute opposite of karma yoga. They are inaction personified. They're always saying, let's go, but they never, ever move. They're stuck in this deep spiritual paralysis, just waiting for meaning to show up, instead of getting up and creating it themselves. And this is where you can see just how deep these parallels run. The Gita says that life requires karma, or action. The play shows us the spiritual failure that comes from inaction. The Gita talks about Maya, the illusion that hides reality from us, while Godot is the ultimate illusion of false hope. The Gita sees Kala, or time, as a cycle. The play's structure just repeats itself over and over. And finally, the Gita offers moksha, or liberation, while Beckett's characters just stay trapped forever. So let's just imagine a little dialogue here to make this all more concrete. Imagine the warrior Arjuna, maybe he's a student now, asking his teacher Krishna about this weird play. He's confused. Why would anyone write a story about, well, about nothing, about this repetitive, empty feeling? And you can imagine Krishna explaining that Beckett wasn't just telling a story. He was holding up a giant mirror to all of us. He was showing us exactly what happens when we wait around for our purpose to be delivered to us. The whole point of the play is that Godot never shows up,
because meaning can only be created from within. It can't come from anywhere else. They're endless waiting, Krishna would say. That's the illusion, the maya of expectation. They are actively refusing to wake up to their own power. And honestly, that's a deeply human thing, isn't it? We often prefer the strange comfort of a familiar routine, even a miserable one, to the terrifying freedom of actually realizing the truth.
So where does all this leave us? What's the big takeaway from looking at this famously bleak play through the lens of this ancient wisdom? It's really this. Beckett's play is this haunting, powerful picture of spiritual paralysis. It's a stark warning about the despair that creeps in when we outsource our own purpose, when we choose to wait for life to happen to us instead of actually living it. It really boils down to a fundamental choice. We can all take the path of Godot, just passively wait for an answer that's never going to come and get stuck in that endless loop of despair. Or we can take the path of the Gita. We can create our own meaning through conscious, purposeful action, which is the path that leads to real freedom. And when you look at it this way, all of a sudden, the play isn't just about how hopeless everything is. It becomes an invitation, a call to action, really. It challenges every single one of us to look at our own lives and ask, what's the Godot that I'm waiting for? What illusions are keeping me stuck right where I am? Because, as Krishna explains, the second you stop waiting and you start acting with awareness, everything changes. That emptiness, that absurdity you might feel about life, it gets transformed. It becomes sacred. It becomes the very place where you forge your own purpose. So the ultimate irony here is that the salvation, the meaning, the Godot that we're all looking for, it's not out there somewhere. It's been inside us the whole time, just waiting for us to turn our attention to it. And the only question left is the one that Beckett leaves hanging in the air at the end of his play. Are we finally going to move?